tape dispenser. Is this not amazing? And I wanted to share how I schedule my days with you. So last week I got a request that was made by someone that they wanted to know how I schedule my days. And then other people chimed in and they were like, yeah, we want to know how you schedule your days and how you plan out your content and all of this. So that is what I'm sharing with you today. I will try and share it in the most simple way possible. I would not be able to be effective with my scheduling if I were not totally clear on the purpose of my business. So that's the first thing I'll say. You have to be really, really clear in order to be able to effectively schedule your days on like what your purpose is. If you're not clear about that yet, then that's where you need to start. So everything in my schedule revolves around my 90-day plan. So I don't plan out my entire year all at the same time. That's overwhelming. I plan it out in 90-day chunks. So I'll start broad and then I'll narrow in on how I plan on a daily basis. It all starts with my 90-day schedule. So at the beginning of every single quarter, I will literally sit down for an entire day, sometimes 2 days and sometimes 3 days, but usually I can do it in one day. I'll sit down in a day and I will first pick out 1 to 3 main goals or projects for that quarter. I do not pick more than 3 because that's overwhelming and that's a recipe for frazzle pants. So I pick out 1 to 3 main goals. One, if it's something major, like if you're trying to like launch a course, for example, and you have to like create it and launch it and all that, that's a big goal. So you might need 3 months to just do that one goal, okay? So I pick out 1 to 3 main goals, and then I also set a couple growth benchmarks for that quarter. So I will set my email subscriber goal for that quarter, and I will set my income goal for that quarter. Once I have those 1 to 3 main goals and a couple growth benchmarks, I will then break each goal down into tiny, tiny, tiny steps, as small as steps as possible. So each goal I break down into just all the steps. I'm not scheduling them at this point. I'm literally just writing them down. Literally every task that I need to do to get to that goal. And then once I have broken each goal down into those tiny steps, then I will open up my planner and start plugging them in over the next 90 days. So for my schedule, I use 2 things. I use my planner, my tangible planner. This is the one that I actually designed myself. It's on my website, but it's a live planner for online entrepreneurs. And I also use Trello. Literally at this point, in one sitting, I have planned out the focus for the next 3 months and my main goals, and I've broken them down into action steps. So this all happens in one sitting. If you have not tried planning your year in quarters yet, I highly urge you to try it. It's been a game changer for me. I've been doing it for the last year. It's been a huge help. So definitely recommend that. It's one afternoon, will give you so much clarity. And if you need help with that, I have a thing called the Productivity Party, and I've linked to it above. So if you want help with your 90-day plan, check that out. So that's the first step to my schedule, is creating my 90-day plan. That happens in a day. The next thing I do is at the beginning of each month, then I sit down and I plan my specific content for that month. So now's the time where in one afternoon at the beginning of each month, I plan out things like my blog posts, if I'm going to do any. So I'll plan out my blog posts, Facebook Lives, I'll plan out any emails to my list, and I will schedule my social media. So usually this takes me about 2 days. I'll spend a day scheduling out my social media for the entire month. So I use SmarterQueue for that, by the way. It's awesome. That's my social media automator. Highly recommend. It's amazing. And I will also plan out my content. Now, when I'm planning out my content, I will always keep my main goals in mind. So those main goals that I set when I was coming up with my 90-day plan, I want to keep those in mind when I'm planning my content. So for example, if I'm launching a course, let's say at the end of one of those months, then I want to plan out my content to be in line with that. So my blog posts, I might plan out to be on the topic of whatever the course is that I'm launching. The Facebook Lives, maybe I'll plan out to lead to something that's related to that. So I'm not just blindly coming up with whatever topic I feel like for my blog posts and for my emails to my list and things like that. I'm not writing them yet. I'm just scheduling them out, as in kind of planning the general time frame of when I'm going to create them. And then I'll also come up with the topics. So the topics for the blog post and the topics for the emails that I'm going to send to my list. So that's what I do at the beginning of each month. Again, I spend a day or two doing this. One day scheduling my social media, which I use SmarterQueue for, and then the next day planning out my content topics. Then at the beginning of each week, usually I will do this on Friday, like at the end of the day before I close up shop for the weekend, because I try my best to not work on the weekends. So usually at the end of the day on Friday, I will then sit down and plan out the following week in even more detail. My weeks are broken down. They vary a little bit, but generally I reserve certain days for certain tasks. I don't know about you, but I get in, like, I like to have a little bit of routine, and my mind works in, like, I get focused and I get in like this focus mode. And so if I'm constantly like switching different types of tasks and projects, it's just like, I can't focus. Once I get in the zone for something, I need to stay in that zone. I'm planning out my weeks. Generally, my days are blocked out for certain things. So Mondays and Tuesdays, for example, I reserve for content creation. That's when I feel my most fresh. My brain, it's the beginning of the week, it's working the best. So Mondays and Tuesdays, I'll do things like write a blog post or make a video or create course content. Anything that requires creative juices flowing through my brain. Wednesdays every week, I typically reserve for emailing my list if I'm going to be sending something to my list. Fridays I reserve for administrative tasks. So every Friday is when I check my email and respond to email and do administrative tasks, those little tasks that are kind of like, they take up a lot of time and they're not like that fun, but you have to do them. So that's what I do on Fridays. And then I block out my time. I will spend the first half of my day every day. If there is anything creative that I have to do that day that involves brain juice, I do that first thing, like never second half of the day, because by 2 p.m. like right now, my brain starts like farting essentially. I don't check in on social media first thing of the day. I don't check my email first thing of the day. I don't get online first thing of the day. I do anything creative. And then my second half of the day is like administrative stuff or little things that I can do that don't require a lot of brain power. I do that at the end of every Friday. So the end of the week, I look at the following week and I plan out each day. So that way, when Monday comes, I'm hitting the ground running. I'm not waking up Monday morning being like, what do I need to work on today? Like, I know exactly what I'm going to work on today because I scheduled it out the week before. And then at the end of every single day, like today when I'm off work at around 5, I will look over my to-do list tomorrow, see if there's anything I need to tweak, need anything to change. I just like to brush over it, clears the mind, make sure everything's on there, and that's really it. Honestly, my motto this year has been, and I encourage you to say it with me, get more done by doing less. It essentially starts with my 90-day plan, which I link to above if you need help with that. I create a 90-day plan at the beginning of every quarter, and then at the beginning of every month, using my 90-day plan, I then create all of my content so that it's in line with that, and then at the beginning of every week, or at the week before, I schedule out my days and I reserve certain days for certain tasks, and I time block. Highly recommend time blocking. And then at the end of every workday, I then look at my to-do list for the next day. So that is how I schedule. That's what I've been doing for the last year. It's been working really great. Go schedule your days to kick butt in the world.